They told you the Middle Ages were filthy, brutal, ignorant, and yet, for 500 years, your hands were the closest thing to salvation anyone had. Not the priest, not the noble, you, the man with the razor and the bone saw. They teach children that surgeons in 1523 bled people for no reason, that you drilled skulls to release demons, that you didn't understand the body. But what if they're wrong? What if the truth was sharper? What if the barber's blade wasn't just for hair, but for secrets? They say you were a butcher, a madman with leeches, a servant in blood-soaked aprons. But maybe, just maybe, you weren't killing people. Maybe you were trying to save them in a world that no longer knew how. This is not a story about progress. This is a story about survival, about pain, and about the man behind the blood. Because when history closes the book too fast, you have to read between the stains. So tonight, don't sleep. Just listen, and remember, you are the knife. Chapter 1. The Smell of Blood and Mint. A story whispered from the rot behind the curtain. You don't wake from sleep. You surface from something else, a kind of damp forgetting. Your eyes don't open. They dry open. Crusted, gritty, half-blinded by whatever you didn't wash off last night. Because water is for patience. The smell is what brings you fully back. Not the sun. The room doesn't face the sun. Not the bell. The church stopped ringing for your kind. It's the scent. The one that clings to your apron. Blood, mint, urine, and just a trace of soap, like a memory. You inhale and gag, faintly, politely, like a professional. You sit up. The straw pokes your back like old guilt. You slept, as always, on the floor. Not because there's no bed. There is one. You just don't trust it. You don't trust anything too soft anymore. Not in your trade. The morning is cold, but you don't shiver. You wrap your apron over your shirt like armor, stiff, dark, heavy with crusted fluids. You tie it with your teeth because your fingers are already shaking. Outside, someone coughs. Deep, wet. It's not your concern. Not yet. You glance around the room. The razor sits in the basin, blade rusting just slightly at the hinge. You'll oil it later, maybe. The jar of leeches is asleep. The largest one, you call it St. Agnes, floats belly up like a fat, satisfied priest. The bone saw is missing a tooth. So are you. Fair trade. You reach for your water bowl. It's gray. It shouldn't be, but it always is. You dip your hands in, rub gently. The sensation is more symbolic than sanitary. The water smells faintly of vinegar, or blood, or both. You don't ask, you just clean. A knock at the door. 3 taps, not 4. 4 means plague. 3 means teeth. You open it slowly. He's young. 16, maybe 17. One eye swollen shut. His mouth already open before he speaks, because the pain is faster than the words. Lower left, he groans. You nod and gesture to the chair. The chair is old, soaked in a century of prayers, piss, and pus, but it holds. You like things that hold. He sits, tries to, flinches when the wood creaks. It always creaks. That's how it warns you. You fetch your tools. The forceps are crooked. So are you. You dip them in the gray water, tap them on a cloth, then stop. You remember. Today, the mint. You reach for the small jar in the corner, dried mint leaves soaked in alcohol. Not for sterilization, for smell. Yours. You chew 2 leaves, swallow one. The second you let sit behind your tongue. Let the illusion linger. You ask no questions. You never do. You pry his mouth open. Hold his head steady with your knee. The tooth is black. A fine candidate. You whisper, not to him, but to the tooth. Come gently, or come in pieces. And then you begin. He screams, of course. That's the music of the job. You hear it every day. It doesn't move you, but you time your pulls with the rhythm. 1 twist, 2, a snap, then silence. He's unconscious. It's for the best. You hold up the tooth, still bleeding. You look at it. It's yours now. You tuck it into the rag of souvenirs, a pouch of teeth, buttons, coins, 1 fingertip, still soft, and a tiny crucifix that might have belonged to a nun or a liar. You don't ask which. You mop the boy's face, slap his cheeks. He groans. Good, he lives. You hand him a cloth. Tell him to bite. Tell him nothing else. He stumbles out like a drunk, leaving a small trail of pink on your floorboards. You sigh. 1 down. You take a moment to sharpen your blade. Rag over stone, stone over metal. Each scrape is a promise. You adjust the apron. The blood is still wet. Fresh warmth, sticky as guilt. Someone coughs again outside. This time it's closer. You do not answer the door yet. You light a candle instead. It flares briefly, then surrenders to the gloom. The room smells stronger now. Blood and mint, a holy combination. A scent that says, you are open for business. You are not here to heal. You are here to remove. You smile, because there's nothing more honest than a barber who doesn't lie about the pain.
Chapter 2. Tooth by Tooth. Pain, like debt, is always collected in parts. The boy didn't close the door properly. You never expect them to. You hear the hinges creak. A gust of morning filth rolls in. Pig breath, wet hay, maybe something unholy rotting beneath the butcher's slab. You inhale without flinching. After a while, everything smells like guilt and onions. You close the door, carefully, slow enough that the latch doesn't scream. Your hand lingers on the wood. So many palms have touched it. Some desperate, some bleeding, some that never came back to touch it again. You like this door. It keeps more secrets than your tongue ever could. You turn back to your chair, the sacred altar of suffering. A few fresh blood droplets glisten in the groove near the seat post. They slide slowly, as if thinking twice about falling. You leave them. They're not hurting anyone yet. Your tools wait on the table, laid out like saints, rusting saints, crooked saints. There's the short hook, the one that slipped into gums like a whisper. The iron pincers, worn smooth by years of jawbone wars. A mallet, not for the teeth really, mostly for the men who change their minds too late. And the mirror, cracked. You keep it anyway, to remind yourself that your hands are steadier than your reflection. You chew another mint leaf. It doesn't help, but habit is a kind of faith. Then the bell above your door twitches. Not a ring, not a knock, just hesitation. That means woman, probably with a child, probably scared. You prepare the lie. This won't hurt long. You know better. But people like symmetry. Short pain, quick cure, 2 prayers, clean. The door opens. She's thin. Her veil is damp. She doesn't meet your eyes. The child behind her, a girl, no more than 9, clutches her skirt with red knuckles. The mother speaks softly, doesn't say a name, just lifts the girl's chin. You see the bulge immediately. Lower left jaw, hot, swollen, shiny like butcher's fat. An abscess, and a stubborn one. You nod. The girl tries to speak, but can't. Tears start before she's even seated. You reach into the shelf below the basin. Pull out the short wedge, smooth, dark, soaked in wine last night. Not to clean it, to make it forgettable. You offer the girl the wedge. She looks at her mother. The woman nods. The girl places the wedge between her teeth. Her lips tremble. You place your hand gently on her crown. Feel the warmth. She has fever. You count to 3, but only aloud in your head. Then, the slice. Fast, sharp, below the jawline, right into the swelling. It bursts like a rotten fig. The smell is instant, rich, thick, like death in a wool sock. The girl doesn't scream. She freezes. Her eyes roll back, but she stays upright. You've seen men twice her size collapse over less. You respect that. You press a cloth into the wound, draw the infection out in slow squeezes. Her blood is thin, pale. You whisper to her, not comfort, but precision. Breathe out when I press. Don't move. She does. You finish in 2 minutes. By then, her mother is sobbing, quietly, into her hands, facing the wall. You ignore it. You pack the wound with ragwort, sew 2 fast stitches, tiny ones. You tie them tight with the grace of a man who's done this while drunk, weeping, or bleeding from his own leg. You hand the girl a button from your pouch. It's not medicine, it's a reward. She nods, and just before she leaves, she does something strange. She bows, not deeply, just enough to mark the moment. Then she vanishes into the fog. Pause. You sit back. Your hands stink, but they feel light. You stare at the tooth that fell out during the burst. It's curled, rotten at the root, still warm. You add it to the pouch. Tooth by tooth, the pouch grows. You wonder sometimes if it will ever fill. You hope not. Because as long as people still come, crying, swollen, whispering your name like a curse, you have purpose. And as long as your hands still shake before they begin, but never while they work, you are not lost. You are just what they need, even if you are never what they wanted.
Chapter 3. The Razor of Saint Sebastian. Every blade remembers what it's cut. Some remember who. You keep the razor in a wooden box. Not for safety. Razors don't need safety. They need distance from everything else you touch. The box has a stain on the lid. You don't remember when it got there, but you remember who. You run your fingers over the lid like a prayer, not one of faith, one of respect. The razor was a gift, if you can call it that, from your old master. He didn't die in bed. He died on the floor, face down, razor still in his hand, smiling. You took it, because he would have wanted it, because no one else could hold it. The blade has a name. You never speak it aloud, but in your head, when you lift it from its box, you call it Sebastian, because it always draws blood, even from saints. You unwrap the cloth slowly. The edge is blackened at the tip, the handle stained from sweat and something darker. You run your thumb along the spine, not the edge. You're not an apprentice. This blade has done more than shave necks. It has whispered under ears. It has slid down behind collars. It has removed things that beg to stay. You don't sharpen it every day, only when the morning feels off. And this morning feels like something is waiting. The knock at the door is hard, twice, then silence. That means soldier. You hate soldiers. Not because they're cruel, but because they pretend they're not afraid. You open the door. He's tall, older than most, hair cropped tight, eyes yellowed from drink. He doesn't speak. He holds out a coin, then rolls up his sleeve. The scar starts at the elbow, travels up like a snake, twisting toward the shoulder. An old wound, poorly stitched, now infected. You smell it, even before you see the pus. He points at it. Cut it out. That's all he says. You nod, gesture to the chair. He sits. The wood groans beneath his armor. You place the coin on the shelf. Copper, barely enough. But you won't argue. You never argue with men who bring blood in their breath. You lay out the cloth. You boil the water. Not too hot, just enough to lie. You soak the cloth, wrap it around his arm, soften the skin, loosen the memory. You hum while you work, not a song, just rhythm. The soldier watches you. You don't meet his eyes. You unwrap the cloth. Steam rises. The skin is pale and angry. The scar pulses. You open the box, lift the razor, and something in the room tightens. Even the flies seem to pause. You whisper to the blade, "Be good today." You slice gently, down the length of the scar, fast, then across. The wound opens like a mouth. The soldier tenses, but doesn't cry out. You dig with your fingers, find the thread, pull it. It comes loose with a sigh, like wet rope from a dock. You scoop out the pus, spoon it into a dish. It smells like rot and regret. You pour vinegar over the gash. He jerks, then breathes. You stitch. 5, 6, 7, 8. Tight. Not for healing, for closure. You pat the skin dry, cover it with a cloth, bind it with twine. Then you lift the razor, wipe it on your apron, and hold it to the candle. The flame licks it clean, but never pure. You place it back in its box, gently, with the care of someone returning a holy relic. The soldier stands, doesn't thank you. He touches the bandage, nods once, then says, "Did he scream?" You don't answer. He nods again and leaves. The door closes, softly. You sit, stare at your hands. One knuckle is bleeding. The razor always takes its price. You whisper, "Good boy," and the blade sleeps.
Chapter 4. The Girl with One Arm. Some wounds are older than the people who carry them. The rain came during the night. Not a storm, not a cleansing, just that kind of persistent drizzle that seeps into timber, into cloth, into lungs. It's the sort of rain that makes everything limp. You hate rain. Not because it ruins your instruments, you've used rusted blades before, but because it makes people come in with stories. And you prefer injuries that don't talk back. You sit on the stool behind the window. There's no glass, just an opening. The curtain is damp and smells of old lard. You listen. Footsteps, soft, bare, hesitant. You hear them before you see her. She's small, too small for this hour, too alone for this town. She steps through the doorframe like she's sneaking into a confession. Soaked cloak, hair in knots, and one arm. Just one. The left sleeve is empty, tied off at the elbow, knotted like a forgotten prayer. She says nothing. You nod, gesture toward the chair. She sits without hesitation. That bothers you. People should hesitate. You speak first. How long? She answers without flinching. 7 days. The bandage smells wrong. You blink. You hadn't noticed the bandage. It's linen, cheap, tied by someone with fingers but not skill. You lean forward.
She doesn't lean back. Her eyes are green and dry. You lift the cloth. The stump is wrong. Not infected, not gangrenous, but not healing. The skin is tight, too tight. The end bulbous, puckered, like a mouth trying not to scream. You whisper, "Who did it?" She doesn't answer, but her eyes flick once toward the window. That tells you enough. You nod. You fetch the razor, not Sebastian, a smaller one, for children and delicate work. You light a candle, breathe over it. The flame wavers. So do you. You begin cutting away the bandage. It peels like old skin. You wince, not for her, for the man who did this. You clean the stump gently. Soap, water, vinegar, then wine. She flinches once, only once. You whisper, "This'll hurt." She replies, "I know." You press your thumb beneath the muscle, feel the pulse. Good, still there. But something is wrong beneath. Tissue hardened, like bark inside flesh. Scar forming too fast. You'll need to open it, retrim the end, create a clean cap. You say it aloud. She nods. No fear, no breath, just readiness. That unsettles you more than screams ever could. You work in silence. Slice, clamp, singe, stitch. She stares at the ceiling the whole time, mouth closed, eyes wide. You want to ask where she came from, why her arm was taken, who botched the work. But you don't, because something about her silence feels familiar. When it's over, you wrap the stump in soft cloth. Add a splint, small, curved, ashwood, like a promise. You hand her a small glass of wine. She doesn't drink. Instead, she asks, "Can I work for you?" You freeze. Not because it's a strange request, but because you were thinking it too. You look at her again. She has steady legs, a clean gaze, and one arm. Which means she'll never hold a sword, never farm, never beg properly. But she can hold tools. You whisper, "What do you know about blood?" She answers, "It dries faster when you don't cry." Pause. You nod. Reach behind the shelf. Hand her a fresh apron. It's still stiff, from before. She takes it. Stands beside your table. Waits. You don't ask her name. She doesn't ask yours. Outside, the rain stops. Inside, something begins.
Chapter 5. Rats Beneath the Floorboards. Some things move, even when no one's watching, especially then. The girl sweeps in silence. You didn't ask her to. She found the broom herself. Didn't ask where it was. Didn't ask if there was one. She just moved, slow, precise, like she was born into dust. You watch from your stool. The fire in the brazier is low. Ash curls upward, thin as breath. The room smells of vinegar, sweat, and something else. You notice it now, something new. It's faint, but real. Rot. Not blood, not meat, something older. You speak, softly, so the room doesn't notice. Do you smell it? The girl nods, keeps sweeping. Her face doesn't change. She sweeps toward the back wall, near the tools, near the cracked plank with the black knot. You feel it before you hear it. A thump. Small, underfoot, like something shifting beneath the boards. You don't move, not yet. Instead, you reach slowly for your longest scalpel. Not to stab, just to feel safe. The girl stops. She puts the broom aside. Then, with that same wordless grace, she crouches, presses her ear to the floor, listens. After a moment, she says, "It's chewing." You nod. That makes sense. but it doesn't explain why the chewing sounds like it's memorizing your footsteps. You light a candle. Take the iron hook from the wall, the one used for pulling teeth that won't come free. Not for the tooth itself, but for the skull. You kneel beside the knot, tap the board. It echoes, hollow. You pry it loose, slowly, gently. The wood groans, as if it hates being remembered. Beneath, darkness. And the scent grows stronger. You lower the candle. The flame reveals a crawl space, no more than a foot deep, maybe 4 across. But inside, movement. Not fast, not panicked, methodical. A twitch, a flick of a tail. Eyes, so many eyes. Rats, 4, maybe 5. But they don't scatter, they just watch. That's what freezes you. You've seen rats, you've killed them, but you've never seen them wait. The largest one steps forward, bold, one ear gone, muzzle gray. In its mouth, a strip of cloth, red, frayed, too clean for garbage. You reach for it. The rat doesn't flinch. It lets go, retreats. You pull the cloth out, hold it to the light. It's familiar. The stitching, the thread. This was once part of your old master's apron. You haven't seen it since the day he died. You never buried him. No one did. You left the door open that night. Figured the city would collect him. But maybe. You don't finish the thought. You fold the cloth, place it in your pocket, replace the board, seal it. Then, slowly, you sit. The girl stands behind you. You speak without turning. What else is under there? She answers without hesitation. Something that remembers you. You don't ask how she knows. Instead, you clean your hands. The blood won't come off today, but you pretend. That night, the candle burns lower than usual, and the rats don't come back. But the sound of chewing never quite stops. You just stop listening.
Chapter 6. Bloodletting on a Tuesday. They say it balances the humors, but you've seen it unbalance the soul. Tuesday is for blood. Not because it's sacred, but because it isn't. The priests have their Sundays. The merchants have their Fridays. The whores have their every night. But you have Tuesdays. The red bowl is already on the table, cleaned, polished with vinegar and ash. Its rim chipped from the time a man convulsed too hard, too fast. You kept the bowl. It has character. The girl doesn't ask questions anymore. She lays out the cloths, one for soaking, one for pressing, one for the patient's mouth. You taught her to fold them corner to corner. She never forgets. The brazier crackles softly in the corner. You boil the leech tongs, even though you won't use them today. Today is for the blade. You don't sharpen it, not on Tuesdays. Tuesdays require blunt honesty. The door opens with no knock, just a gust of cold and something wet. He enters, tall, thin, robes too clean for a man his age, fingers white, nails pink, lips cracked from fasting. You know the type. Clergy, but not the loud kind. The kind that whispers to corners. The kind that reads Latin in the dark. He looks around, doesn't greet you. He sees the bowl. He nods. You gesture to the chair. He sits like a man accepting penance, not expecting healing, just equal punishment. You wash your hands in cold wine, not because it cleans, but because it feels like something holy. You tie the tourniquet, his left arm.
You hum. He flinches. Don't, he says, quietly, as if humming might summon something. You stop. You press 2 fingers along the inside of his elbow. Find the vein. Thin, skittish, like a worm hiding in mud. You whisper, "This may take a moment." He nods, doesn't blink. You draw the blade. Not Sebastian, not the child's. The mid-blade, serrated, old. You press it gently against the skin. He doesn't move. You push. It pierces slow. No rush, no scream. Just that little sigh skin makes when it finally lets go. And then the blood. Dark, not red, thick, tired. It coils into the bowl, slower than you like, but steady. He watches it. Not you, not the blade. Just the blood. You whisper, "How often?" He replies, "Every 3rd moon, unless the dreams return." You nod. That explains the eyes. He leans back, eyes half closed. He's murmuring something, not prayer. You listen closer. Latin, but broken, not his Latin. Something learned from someone who never wrote it down. You stop the bleeding with a tight cloth, press hard. He doesn't notice. You wrap his arm, tie the linen with a single knot. You reach for the bowl. The blood is cooling. You pause. He speaks. "Don't pour it out." You blink. He continues. "There are things that still listen, even now." You don't answer. Instead, you hand him a pouch of dried wormwood. He takes it, leaves 2 coins on the bench, and 1 feather, black, from a crow. You don't ask. He steps outside, doesn't close the door. The wind does it for him. You stare at the bowl. Something in the blood has clotted into a shape. Not quite a circle, not quite a spiral. You blink. It doesn't change. You call the girl. "Bring salt." She does. You scatter it in. The shape vanishes. Too quickly. You rinse the bowl. Too quickly. You hang the cloths. Too quickly. But you do not speak. Not tonight. Not after Tuesday. You light another candle, lower the flame, and sit beside it, watching the wax drip like blood that doesn't ask permission.
Chapter 7. The Widow's Wart. Some things want to be removed. Others want to be noticed. She arrives without warning. No knock, no call. Just the soft brush of skirts and a perfume that doesn't belong in your room. Rose oil, bitter, overripe, meant to cover something else. She fills the doorway, not with sighs, with certainty. You've seen her before. The widow. No one says her name anymore, not since the 3rd husband. Or was it the 4th? She doesn't age, not the way others do. She smooths, she sharpens. You've never seen her cry, but you've seen her watch others cry. You nod toward the chair. She doesn't sit. Instead, she lifts her veil, reveals her cheek. A wart, small, black, just beneath the left eye. She says nothing, just stands there, waiting for you to be impressed. You aren't. You've removed worse. You gesture to the table, to the blade, to the cloth. Still, she doesn't move. She whispers, "I want it gone, not just cut." You understand. There's a difference. You wash your hands. Gloves are for cowards or priests. You gesture again. She sits, slowly, crosses her legs, lays her hands in her lap like dead birds. You tie her hair back. It smells of lavender and ash. You tilt her chin. The wart is older than it looks.
It pulses slightly. You pretend not to notice. You press the skin around it. It doesn't yield. You fetch the heated needle, test it against the candle. It glows red, then fades. You press it to the wart. It hisses. So does she, but only once. You slice gently. The wart resists. You apply vinegar, salt, pressure. It begins to loosen, but something strange. Under the root, not flesh, not blood. You see something white, small. You squint. It moves. A thread? No, a hair. Coiled around something else, something gray. You dig deeper. The widow flinches. You whisper, almost done. You lie. You press harder, pinch the skin, extract it. It comes loose with a small pop, like a seed from fruit. You hold it up. Not a wart, not really. A sac, thin, with something inside. A tooth, tiny, human. You freeze. The girl sees it too, across the room. She doesn't react. You turn back. The widow is smiling, just a little. You whisper, "How long?" She replies, "Since the second husband." You don't ask more. You drop the sack into the iron dish, cover it, quickly. You clean the wound. It doesn't bleed, not at all. You stitch it anyway, 3 threads, each tighter than needed. She watches you the whole time. Her eyes don't blink. When it's done, she stands. No payment, just a nod. She leaves. The smell of rose lingers too long. That night, you burn the sack. It doesn't burn clean. The smoke curls toward the ceiling like fingers. You wipe down the tools twice, 3 times. The girl speaks for the first time that day. You shouldn't have touched it. You don't reply. You sit beside the flame, hold your hands out to the warmth, and check your cheek for any new marks.
Chapter 8. Fire Under the Chair. Pain comes in many forms. Some arrive on purpose. You smell it before you feel it. Char. Not wood, not cloth, hair. The scent curls through the floorboards like a secret, thick, oily, unmistakable. You freeze mid-stitch. The man in your chair winces but doesn't speak. The cut on his shoulder gapes wide, waiting for thread. But you pause. Something is wrong. The air is warm, too warm, from below. You glance at the brazier. Still lit, still in the corner, nowhere near the chair. You shift your weight. A soft pop echoes beneath the boards. Not a spark, a blister. Your pulse quickens. The patient groans. Nearly finished, you whisper. To him, to yourself. You finish the stitch. Tie it off quickly. The knot is sloppy but functional. You pat his arm. He rises, sways slightly. You press a cloth into his hand. Keep it dry. He nods, leaves without a word. You turn to the girl. She's already watching you. You don't need to speak. She nods, moves toward the corner, lifts the broom, lifts the mat, then the board. She recoils. You step closer. There, beneath the chair, blackened straw, charred linen, a candle stub burned through and split open. Still warm, still smoking. You say nothing. You crouch, examine the soot. It hasn't spread, but it would have. The wood beneath is singed. The leg of the chair, scorched. 1 more hour, or one careless shift in weight, and the entire room would have gone up. You glance around the space. Nothing seems touched, nothing missing. Just a small circle of heat that almost swallowed you whole. You stand slowly.
Ask flatly, "Who was in last?" The girl replies, "Before the soldier?" You nod. She doesn't blink. "The widow." Of course. You exhale, long, thin. But no, the soot is fresh. Too fresh. You turn again. Scan the shelves. The drawer. The leeches, untouched. The razors, accounted for. The pouch of teeth, still full. But the scalpels, one is missing. The thin one, the one you never lend. Your stomach tightens. You whisper, "Apprentice?" The girl nods. You say nothing else. She disappears behind the curtain. Returns with a boy. Thin, red-faced, eyes darting like hunted mice. You recognize him. You took him in last spring. Let him wash cloths, clean blood from the blades. You thought he was grateful. He stands now trembling, hands behind his back. You don't raise your voice. You never have to. You ask, "Why?" He stammers, eyes lower, says, I wanted to see what would happen." You blink. Not surprise, not anger, just confirmation. He continues, "I thought maybe, if the fire was small, you'd move. You'd let me do the stitches, just once." He says it like a confession, like a child begging to hold the blade by lighting the house on fire. You nod, walk past him, toward the shelf. You reach for the scalpel, the wide one, clean, heavy. You turn back. He steps back. The girl blocks the door. You don't lift the blade. You just stare. Then say, "Out." He hesitates. You say it again. "Out." He goes. No protest. No apology. Just shame and maybe a hint of resentment. That night, you move the chair. You musk the floor with brine and ash. You seal the board. You sit. Hands folded. Eyes low. The girl stands beside you. You ask, "Would you ever light a fire beneath me?" She replies, "No." You nod. "Why not?" She says, "Because I'd want you to see it coming." You look at her. Really look. She's not smiling. She never does. You whisper, "Good." Because now, neither will you.
Chapter 9. The Eye in the Jar. It was supposed to be discarded, but some things refuse to rot. The jar sits on the shelf, back left, between the dried leeches and the bottle of clove oil you never use. No label, no string. You know what's inside. You've always known. The liquid is pale, not clear, not clean, like something that used to be water before it learned to remember. And in that liquid, an eye, just one, floating, not spinning, not dissolving, just waiting. You don't remember whose it was, not exactly, but you remember the day it arrived. It was raining. They always bring you the worst things when it rains. You remember the man, a thief, maybe, or a priest who liked things he shouldn't. Hard to say. You took the eye out with the small hook. It came loose too easily. It blinked once in your palm. Not really, just the muscles twitching. But still. You dropped it into the jar, meant to dispose of it later. You never did. And now it lives there, clouded, soft, still watching. The girl knows not to touch it. You didn't tell her. She just knows. But this morning, it's moved. Not much, just a few inches to the right. Still on the shelf, still sealed, but not where it was. You blink. You didn't move it. She didn't move it. No one else comes in. You ask the girl. She shakes her head. So you say nothing more. But you move it back. Later that day, a man arrives, eyes red, not from crying, from sleep. He says nothing, just sits, points to his face. You see the swelling, the tearing, the fear. He wants it gone. An infection, or worse. You ask, do you see out of it? He nods, but it's a lie. The pupil doesn't respond. The white is tinged yellow. You whisper, it won't get better. He replies, nothing does. You nod, fetch the bowl, the hook. You don't ask more. He drinks the wine, bites the strap. You begin. The hook slips behind the eye. You feel the tension, the thread of pain pulling tight. He doesn't scream. He just breathes harder. You pull. It comes free, wet, red, still warm. It blinks. Again. Just once. But you don't react. You drop it into a cloth. Tie it shut. You bandage him. Tight. Clean. He thanks you with silence. You nod back. After he leaves, you unwrap the cloth. The eye stares up at you. Still full. Still fresh. You glance at the shelf. At the jar. You lift it. Unscrew the lid. The smell hits you. Vinegar, mold, something sweet. You drop the new eye in. It floats down and stops beside the first. You don't know if it's coincidence, but they're looking in the same direction. Not at you, past you. You turn. Nothing behind, but still, your skin tightens. That night, you hear the faintest noise, a clink, like glass against wood. You ignore it. You roll over. But in the morning, the jar has moved again. Not far, just enough to notice. And this time, the lid is crooked. You tighten it, wipe the rim, say nothing. But you start locking the door from the inside now. And when the girl asks why, you say, because some things don't like being forgotten. And some things, especially eyes, never stop remembering. Chapter 11. Pus and Prayer. Some wounds are sent from God, others are simply neglected. You knew it would be one of those days when the candle wouldn't light. Not at first, not on the second try. Only after the wick bent like a spine, giving up, did it finally catch. The flame was weak, thin, a tongue too tired to lie. You stared at it for a long while. The girl swept in silence. Even she didn't speak that morning. You noticed a new spot on the ceiling, round, dark, not mold, not water. You told yourself it was nothing, but still, you didn't look away for a long time. He arrives just past second bell, dragged in. 2 men hold him up, brothers maybe, or just tired of lifting him. He moans, not like a man in pain, like a man inside a dream he can't wake from. They lay him on your table. You gesture, they step back. He stinks of wool, piss, and fear. You pull the cloth from his chest. It's there, on his stomach. A boil, large, angry, swollen tight, red and yellow at the tip, like an eye about to blink. You touch it. He jerks. The girl steadies his arm. You ask, how long? One brother says, 3 days. The other adds, we tried leeches and a priest. Of course they did. You nod. You wash your hands, twice. You heat the blade. Let the iron glow just enough to feel clean. You whisper, hold him. They do. The girl presses cloth to his brow. He mutters, something Latin, something old. You press your thumb beside the boil. It shifts, alive. You cut. It bursts, hot. The stench is immediate, sickly, like cheese and infection, like guilt in liquid form. It spills across your apron. You don't flinch. You squeeze, more, thicker. The table groans. He arches, screams. The brothers go pale. The girl holds steady. You whisper, "It's leaving now." But you lie, because even as it drains, you see something beneath. Dark lines, like roots, spreading under the skin. You cut again, deeper, find the nest. Not pus now, not blood, but something hard. You dig, hook it out. It clicks against the bowl. A nail, old, bent. You stare. There's more. You find a splinter, then a thorn, then a tooth. Not his. You look at the brothers. They look away. You ask, who prayed over him? They don't answer. The girl says, they cursed him with relics. You nod. You've seen it before. A misguided monk, a grieving lover, someone desperate enough to bury holy things inside the skin to drive the demon out. But all it drives is rot. You clean the hole, pack it with honey and vinegar. You stitch the edge, but not too tight. You want the air to whisper in. You wash your hands. The water turns pink. The girl lights incense. Not for him, for you. He survives the night, but you don't sleep. You sit near the window, blade on your knee, lantern flickering. You can still smell it. In the folds of your skin, behind your teeth, that scent of prayers that were never meant for heaven and pus that never meant to leave.
Chapter 12. The Secret of the Red Cloth. Some things are not hidden to be forgotten, but to wait. It rains all night. Not the usual kind, not the kind that taps and murmurs and leaves. This one claws. It digs into the roof like it's searching for you. You light no candle. You sit with your back to the wall, eyes open, listening to every droplet like it has teeth. And just before the bell for dawn, the girl finds it. She doesn't speak, just holds it out to you, folded, stiff. The red cloth. You haven't seen it in years. The last time you touched it, it was still wet. You don't take it from her right away. You just look. It's yours. Or rather, it was. Once. Long ago. Before this place belonged to you. Before the tools obeyed your hands. Before he died. Your master. He wore that cloth like armor, wrapped it around his waist, never washed it, said it had memory. He bled into it more times than you could count, wiped his blades on it, used it as a bandage, a gag, a tourniquet, a pillow. When he died, you didn't bury it with him. You couldn't. But it was gone. You assumed the fire had taken it. Apparently not. You take it from the girl. It's heavier than it should be. You unfold it, slowly. Dust falls from the folds, and something else. A smell. Iron. Old sweat, and cloves? Strange. You lay it flat on the table. The girl stands behind you, silent. The cloth has a seam, near the corner. Small, uneven, not original. You pinch the edge, feel the bump beneath the thread. You fetch your knife, slide it along the seam. It splits. Inside, parchment. Not paper, thinner, stained. You lift it carefully. Lines, drawings, veins, muscles, bones. A body. Not anatomy, a map. But not of a person, of something else. There are notes. Your master's handwriting. You recognize it instantly. Looped, sharp, meticulous. But the words, they're wrong. You read, Arteria doloris, the artery of sorrow. Os veritatis, the bone of truth. Memoria sub lingua, memory beneath the tongue. You read again, slower. It's not medicine. It's a ritual, a pathway. Something sewn together, from science and desperation. You keep reading. You see your name, not once, 3 times, each written beside a different part of the body, each time marked in red. You stare at the cloth. It's just a rag, but now it feels heavier. You burn the parchment, not quickly, not furiously. You hold it over the brazier, let it curl, let it scream in silence. The girl watches. When it's gone, you stitch the cloth closed again, not neatly, exactly how he had done it. You hang it on the wall, by the door, like it used to be. That night, you dream of stitches, not on skin, not on cloth, on sky, on wind, on memory. You wake before the bell. Your fingertips are sore. You look down. Thread, wrapped around your knuckles, tight, bright red. You say nothing. You wash your hands, but the color lingers, because some blood doesn't dry. It waits.
Chapter 13. The Coffin That Was Too Light. Not everything that's buried is ready to stay that way. It's morning, but the sun isn't speaking. Just pale light, thin, sickly, like breath through old linen. You drink nothing, eat nothing, only sit, only listen. There's been too much movement lately, too much shifting. Eyes in jars, threads on fingers, dust that carries words no one remembers writing. And now, there's a knock, not at your door, at your wall. You freeze. Then you realize it's not the wall. It's the boy, the carpenter's boy, the one who helps carry things that shouldn't be carried. He stands outside your door, his cap in hand, eyes wide. He says, "Sir, the coffin, it's wrong." You blink, then nod. You don't ask for details. If the coffin is wrong, everything else already is. You follow him, out the lane, past the well, to the little shed beside the chapel, the one they use when the ground is too hard or the priest too drunk. The coffin is there, plain, pine, nailed shut, marked with a cross burned too deep. You ask, "What's the weight?" He says, "Wrong." You place your hands on it, lift gently at the edge. Too light, far too light. The corpse inside, a baker, middle-aged, rotund, or so they said. You gesture. The boy brings the hammer. You pry the nails slowly. Wood groans, smell leaks. But not the right one. No rot, no sickness, just mildew and cold. You lift the lid. Inside, a body, but not the baker. This one is small, thin, barely clothed. You check the chest. Breathless, still, but not bloated, not stiff. Fresh, too fresh. You peel the shroud back, and your breath stops. It's the apprentice, the one who lit the fire. You hadn't seen him since. No one had. You hadn't asked. Now, he lies here. Eyes closed, lips parted. No wound, no blood. Just misplaced. You lean closer. You whisper, "What are you doing here?" And then, he breathes. Shallow, fast, reflexive. You step back, fast. He opens his eyes, but he doesn't see you. He sees through you. His lips move. You kneel. He whispers, "I didn't light it." You ask, "What?" He repeats, "I didn't light it." You stare at him. He's cold, but not dead. He should be. He was pronounced, wrapped, boxed. But he's not. The boy behind you murmurs, "What do we do?" You look at him, then at the coffin.
You whisper, "Seal it." He hesitates. You say it again, "Seal it." Because whatever he is now, whatever happened to him between the fire and the nails, he isn't what he was, and he isn't what you remember. That night, you sit with the girl. You light no candles. She says nothing, just drinks from the old cup, the one with the crack. You speak. For a thing to come back, something else must go. She nods. You ask, "Do you think he lied?" She says, "No." You ask, "Do you think I did?" She doesn't answer. And that silence, it weighs more than any coffin ever should.
Chapter 14. Payment in Buttons. Not all currency rings. Some clinks are hollow by design. You feel it before you see him. A presence, dry, dusty, like a cupboard left open too long. The door creaks before he knocks. He steps through it as though the hinges answer to him. Old, but not weak. Eyes sharp, cheeks sunken, hands that used to count coins, but now just tremble at the memory of them. You recognize the coat, once black, now faded into something gray and reluctant. You remember his wife. She came to you in winter, too late. You drained her blood because she begged for it. Sometimes that's the only thing people will let go of. He walks with a cane that taps too loudly for the silence. He sits before you say a word. You don't ask what's wrong. You can see it. The swelling in his foot. The way he keeps his shoe on even as he winces. Gout or worse. He places a hand on your table. Then, slowly, he pulls a pouch from his coat. He sets it down between you. Worn, frayed. You untie it. Tip it over. Buttons. All shapes, all sizes, none matching. Bone, wood, a single one carved from a shell. You stare at them. He says, "They're all I have." You say nothing, because you understand. You run a finger through them. Each one probably meant something once. Held a sleeve, a collar, a dress someone loved for a little while. Now they're currency, his last kind. You reach for the blade, not for punishment, for the toe. He watches but doesn't flinch. You cut away the shoe, then the sock. Skin peels with it. The smell is mild, the pain not. You probe the flesh. It's soft where it should be firm. Discolored, pulsing. You could lance it, but he'd lose the foot anyway. So you whisper, "I'll take it now." He nods. You boil the saw. You sharpen the knife. You light no incense. Let the room smell like what it is. The end of something. You pour wine on the cloth. Offer him none. You don't have enough. You cut through flesh. Then tendon. Then bone. He groans, but only once. You cauterize. Wrap. Bandage. All in silence. He breathes, still steady. You sweep the buttons back into the pouch. All but one. A small red one, stained. You leave it on the table. He looks at it, then at you. You say, "That one's mine." He nods. And when he leaves, he walks without the cane, but slower. You place the red button in the jar. Not the one with the eye, the other. The one for things people give you when they don't have anything left. Inside, a dried flower, a child's tooth, a ring without a stone. And now, this. The girl asks, "Why keep them?" You answer, "Because they paid." She asks, "In what?" You reply, "In trust." She says nothing, but that night, she adds a ribbon to the jar, tied in a knot. You don't ask where it came from, because you've learned the poorest people give the most permanent things. Chapter 15. The Final Stitch.
Every cut you've ever made still breathes beneath your skin. It begins with a tremble. Not in your hand, that would make sense. It begins behind your eye. A slow pulse, dull, regular. Like a heartbeat you forgot to carry. You don't tell the girl. She watches you closely these days, but says less. She folds the cloths without creasing them. She sharpens the blades before you think to ask. She sweeps at night when she thinks you're asleep. But you haven't slept in days. Not truly. There are too many stitches in your head now. Too many hands you've held down. Too many mouths you've gagged for mercy. Too many things that should have stayed buried, but instead kept talking. You sit at the table. There's no patient. Just you and the mirror. Cracked, fogged, but honest. You peel back your collar. The wound is small. A blister, no more. But you know what it is. You've seen it before. On others. On those who waited too long to speak, to leave, to rest. You fetch the kit. Thread, needle, cloth. You soak your hands in wine. Feel it sting. You like the sting. The girl enters, says nothing. She sees the tools. She sees your shoulder. She kneels, quietly. You nod. She threads the needle, holds the cloth. You press the blade to your skin, just beneath the mark. It opens, like it wants to. Blood trickles, dark, slow. You don't look away. You press your finger inside, check for rot. There is none. Just emptiness. A pocket of silence. You pack it with honey. Then she stitches. Not you. Her. Her fingers don't shake. Her knots are cleaner than yours ever were. You watch her face. She does not flinch. And when she finishes, she snips the thread with your old knife. The one you said was too dull. She sets it beside you. Then she says, "You can stop now." You want to laugh, but your throat is dry. Instead, you nod. She stands, takes your apron, folds it once, places it on the chair. Then she lights the lantern. Only one. The one you used the night your master died. You sit back, close your eyes. You listen. To the wind, to the house, to the girl, moving through your tools like they're already hers. You smile, just a little, because they are. You whisper, "Don't forget to clean the needle." She replies, "I already did." And for the first time in a very, very long time, you feel finished. The stitch holds, the room breathes, and you don't.